camera of the program is always going after the photographic movement in Egypt. Let's watch the following segment.
Another step towards Egypt's strategy to connect with Africa. We can see this exhibition today, which touched the wildlife in Africa.
The idea of the event came, I was sent to Africa from industry to work on the industrialization of Africa, from the Ministry of Industry in Egypt to the United Nations to look at the industrialization of Africa. Going and looking at that, I spent my weekends seeing Africa. Yes. I spent my weekends going to parks and going to areas like the Serengeti, where wildlife is abundant and where there are no restrictions. And I kept on, of course, as a hobbyist, I'm a photographer also, so I accumulated a great deal of pictures about animals, birds, wildlife, and broke it down into, as you saw today in the exhibition, let's say wild animals, other animals who have other ways of defending themselves, animals who defend themselves by flight and running away from the enemy, the habits of these animals. And we thought, after I talked with Ambassador Reedy, and we are great friends, that the best forum for showing all this would not be in just anywhere, but in a library. Because the library now will have this event, which was today, where we saw a presentation with a comment about each kind of the animals and birds, etc. But also fixed pictures which were taken and enlarged, which you have seen around here. And they are also broken down into categories. Even one category which is very interesting was, how do you show people around parks, or let's say parks where animals are kept without cages? How do you show people around? There's a way of showing pictures of these animals, making comments about them, putting directions. So the symbolic nature and the symbols used also was how to run a place like this. And at the back of our mind, we were trying to bring Africa close to Egypt because of the African year, where President Sisi is head of the African Union for 1 year. So we want the Egyptian audiences to see this, to see this new friendship between us and the continent. It's a very big continent, but on a certain area. The area is wildlife, the area is nature. The reason that we chose this a library and not an exhibition hall was so young people, These people didn't, they came because they were in the library. We did not invite them. No, they were here, they were reading books, and they heard there are something about animals here, so they all came up. So but we wanted to satisfy them. We wanted to see what do they know about animals. So we started a question and answer. We found that the kids wanted to know more about the animals, and we had foreseen this by telling them that if they came tomorrow on other days where this exhibition is downstairs in the library, they can borrow books about these animals and this wildlife. So they also were allowed to ask questions. And the questions, they ask questions about the wildlife. Why does a lion not attack? Why does a lion hunt in packs?
They go to specific questions.
Yes, they go to specific, very intelligent, not only in the wildlife, but in photography.
Okay.
Because one of the prongs of this was photography is not taking your aunt or your mother or your friend, but also taking and understanding wildlife. But we're going further. We're not giving CDs. We are asking the kids who came to the library to read a story. Okay. They got caught up. Story, okay, we can read it tomorrow. But let us go and listen to wild animals and understand. And tomorrow they will be there asking for the books.
We hope, yes.
So yes, no, for sure they have asked. So it's an integrated approach where we're going full blast, integrating Egypt into Africa, and in this day, particular day, into wildlife in Africa. And as you said quite rightly, Egypt has been in Africa. And I must mention again the trip of Hatshepsut, Queen Hatshepsut. She took 4 ships and she went to Africa. She went to near Somaliland and she went to the land of Punt, and she brought back a gazelle, and she brought back incense for the temples, and she brought back giraffes and their ornaments. So Egypt has been in Africa. Now all this is part of the general people are saying, why are we looking after Africa now? Well, Africa has got raw materials, it's got workforces, the future is in Africa. So we are not writing slogans, we are actually, also through you as a program,
one of the patrons of this library is Dr. Yusuf Mazhar. He is a great advocate of our library. And he went to Africa and he photographed animals in Africa, in the safari. So he had a very nice collection of these photographs, lions, giraffes, gazelles, and monkeys, so many beautiful variety of animals. And he came to the library and he said, I would like to share this experience with the students, with the young people, with the Egyptians who come to the library. So we supported him and we organized for him, this exhibition, which is a very good exhibition. And as you have seen, children, which impressed me very much. This is the first time, I see so many children coming, which means that the children are interested to learn, to see, and particularly if it is something visual. As you have seen, the interaction between these children and Dr. Yusuf Mazhar has been very enriching. You see, children need to be to see things that are interest to them, and I think we have succeeded as a library in doing that. But we need actually to have. An initiative to build 1,000 libraries in Egypt, 1,000, and it would not be enough for Egypt.
Of course, it won't be enough for
It would not, because we need to have a library for every 100,000 people.
Okay.
One library. Many countries like India have a library for 25,000 people. For now, the statistics, according to the Egyptian Organization for Statistics, a library for 2 million people, and that is fraction of what is needed. It's a fraction of what is needed. So we need to. We started in this library as one library, and then we decided to build branches. And we managed to build 2 branches. One of these 2 branches in an area called Zawiya al-Hamra. It's a popular area, and it is the largest library in Egypt now.
Actually, Dr. Yusuf Mazhar is quite known as a former minister for Undersecretary of Industry, but he's a very passionate, photographer, especially for wildlife in Egypt and in Africa and other remote areas as well. So he had many assignments in Africa and Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania, and really he took advantage of his presence over there. And today he was showing us wild Africa with Egyptian lens, and really it has a very fascinating show, because he's showing the wildlife of the birds, of the animals, of the wild animals, lions, and very peaceful animals, like elephants. So it's very colorful, and he'll show us at least 15 species, of monkeys, of mongoose, of hippos, and we're showing it in its natural habitat. And he was there was the room was full of children and adults, and he was explaining to them how he can approach the habitats and their nature and their lifestyle, and how they migrate, and how they trying to preserve their own species, and how they move like families. So really it has been very exciting, and because really this part of Africa, Central Africa, and the wildlife in Africa, Egypt used to have this 3,000-4,000 years ago, but since we have less rain, we used to have giraffes, we used to have tigers and lions, all the wildlife, but now we have less, like the hippos. The river Nile was full of crocodiles and hippos, and other, wildlife or birds, as well. Ibis birds, like ravens, vultures, hawks. So we have less wildlife now, yeah, but still, in southern Sinai and Sinai Peninsula, we have lots of wildlife, of reptiles, and giraffes, and vultures. The same thing in eastern, part of Egypt, and the Halayb and Shalatin. All these areas, they have wildlife and, the greeneries too. It's the same thing, we have behind the dam, we have lots of crocodiles in Lake Nasser, and as well in the western desert and Siwa, we still, have species, of wolves, of Egyptian fox, of gazelles, of deer. So it's very, like still colorful in Egypt, yes, as well. I think most Egyptian children, they go to zoos, like in their own cities, like in Alexandria, in Mansoura, in Banha, and Damietta, and in Tanta, and of course at the Giza, like which is like one of the oldest zoos worldwide. And we still have, like the aquarium too in Zamalek as well.
This is a very great message and a very great efforts. It is an open window to see the beauty of Allah created for this is whatever this is different types of spaces and different types of colors of the skin and different relationship of all of these animal kingdoms with related to each other, and not only of that, how the human being is already can deal with these animals, whether this is animal is aggressive or whether it is very related to the human being. So it has different varieties, which it is very important to open window to all Africa. African woman, it is has a very big role of caring of their children and caring of breastfeeding. You know that they have a very important thing, they are caring of the breastfeeding because it is a natural. And so there is type of diseases which they are already prevented through they are caring of them, and there are some not already predicted according to them.
In Egypt, folkloric art differs from one governorate to another. Let's watch the following segment.
as Egypt chairs the African Union for 2019, different fields of arts combine to promote African culture. The Mahmoud Mukhtar Cultural Center recently held this exhibition called Africa with the Brushes of its Painters. Let's go and see the exhibit.
اشتركت في جامعات في معارض فنية جامعية داخل مصر وخارج مصر.
Today's exhibition is about Africa and Egypt's relation with the continent. We are trying to analyze how the Egyptian woman is part of Africa's civilization and her role in Egypt's prosperity from ancient times till today. The woman in Egypt has always been the tender mother, the physician, the writer, minister, engineer, as well as various other professions that persist till this day. Egypt is the cradle of civilization. It is the mother of all cultures. Egypt used to exchange cultures with the south and the west of Africa. Through the exchange of cultures and arts, societies integrate to be a unified civilization.
هو الفن أساس كل حاجة، هو اللي بيجمع بين الناس عموما، هو اللي بيقرب وجهات النظر أكيد.
I painted a specific work for today's exhibition to hold the theme of Africa. Art is the base of everything. Art unites people in general. It can also make opinions meet and makes people closer. It is a great privilege to connect people through art. When we discover a talent in one of our children, we should promote and enhance it. We have to provide the child with the time and material to be able to be artistic. If a child expresses his ideas through art, painting, colors, and drawing, it creates a sense of sharing as well as satisfaction and tranquility of the soul, because he brings out his emotions, which help him be more productive and active. We can also start with kids when they can simply hold a pen.
معرض أفريقيا بريشة فنانيها، أنا بتكلم عن مصريات وكلهم شخصيات واقعية موجودة في مصر.
These are my paintings, and I'm trying to express parts of our heritage and Egyptology, which is part of Africa. Art is one of the main connections among us nations. It is the case that whenever you go to a foreign country, the first things that you look for are its artistic sites that influence one's impressions of the country. It generally creates a strong bond amongst nations. I like to paint live scenes from everyday real life. These paintings are of real Egyptian characters who are becoming rare in Egypt now, which is part of Africa. In my paintings, I also use live colors and characters. Art is the effect of this civilization on one's emotions and expressions.
سألت الأول عن المعرض وعرفت إن هو بيتكلم عن إفريقيا بعيون فنانيها.
I try to express my art through Egyptian slogans and paintings, considering that Egypt is an intrinsic part of Africa. I look at this exhibition from an Egyptian eye. My idea is to see Egypt through this exhibition. I think we need to acknowledge children of the importance of art because through art, nations develop. So if you care for art education for children and teach them to express themselves through art, countries will inevitably progress.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program, Culture Magazine. I hope you've enjoyed being with me. Please wait for me in the next episode. Until then, it's goodbye.